Hi guys, so this is a preview for the full version of a video about a prophetic dream of World War III that I had from God via the Holy Spirit. And I'll do the full version in the future. Just feeling to put this one out here now. To be honest, this one isn't so urgent. The more information the better, so that people can get an idea of what's coming. As I've said in many recent videos, I'm just not in a position in terms of my current life circumstances to do the full version. That's why I've been doing lots of these little previews. Yeah, as I've said before, it's a middle ground, represents a compromise where I can put some of the message out before I can do the full video. I mean, I have a backlog of 20 to 40 full videos to make, which I just haven't been able to. So it's better than nothing, right? Here we go. So this is a message that I've actually had across two dreams. Well, there was one dream where it was clear and explicit and someone was talking to me about it. But I've seen it in many other dreams, at least 3 or 4. And I've seen that this will apply to Australia, the United States, and to New Zealand, but the dream's more specifically focused on New Zealand. But I was shown that this is going to happen in the US and Australia too. So China and Russia are going to use, quote, shock and awe tactics when they hit our countries before we get invaded. So I'll get into it more in the future video, but basically what I've shown is that they have been studying the methods, tactics, and military systems of, in terms of organization of their enemies, us, and they've copied a lot of that stuff. The Chinese also are very, very aggressively, and have been for decades, stealing Western intellectual property and designs for weapon systems. Doesn't help us that our countries are so morally corrupt that many Americans, Canadians, Brits, Australians, and New Zealanders will happily sell out their entire country they'll happily take $300,000 from the Chinese, even if it means millions of people are going to, thousands will die as a result of their own people, or as a result of their actions. They just don't care because they've got no morals. They're godless, and it's Babylon in the Anglo-Saxon world right now. So that's why a lot of the designs for Chinese military aircraft, for example, look just like American ones. Well, it's because they stole the American designs. Yeah, so it's a huge problem. But they haven't just stolen designs for military equipment and military IP in terms of technology. They've kind of copy and pasted tactics. So I was shown they're going to use these shock and awe tactics really heavily on our countries, and they're going to. Yeah, I'll get into it more in the full dream. But I was shown, man, just they're going to absolutely hammer our populations into just terror and just the desire to submit with overwhelming displays of force. And they're going to hit suburban areas. So they're actually going to bomb. For example, I was shown in New Zealand, they're going to hit many of the suburbs. I mean, I got shown they were dropping bombs on Eastbourne. I mean, I've been shown they were killing civilians and dropping bombs on Eastbourne. Eastbourne is a small upper middle class suburb. Like, why the frick would you target Eastbourne? Well, this is why. I mean, they were Petone, Lower Hutt. I'll put pins to where these places are in the description box below if you're not familiar. I mean, it didn't look like there would be much left. They were hitting them so hard. They were bombing Wellington City. These. And I was also shown that when this is something I'll talk about in the future, when our countries are hit with nuclear weapons, that will be an extension of this policy. So that's another way of just scaring the crap out of our people. And it's the purpose of shock and awe tactics. I'll put a link to what they are in the description box below. There's a Wikipedia article about them. The gist of it is basically to break the will of the enemy, the population, the civilian population of the enemy country that you're invading to resist, with an overwhelming display of force. So you're just terrifying them by, with explosions and killing lots of them. And it's just, you sort of freeze them in fear. That's the idea. And this is what the US led, what is it, Operation Iraqi Freedom, where the American led, coalition freed many Iraqis from their bodies by killing them, and their souls went to the afterlife. Yeah, Operation Iraqi Freedom, freeing people from life by freeing their souls from their bodies by killing them. It's black humor. It's not, to be clear, that wasn't funny. The first nights when we saw the footage in early 2003 of, American and allied sort of NATO countries' forces bombing the crap out of Baghdad, they're going to do to us what we did to them. So, sorry, the Axis countries, which will include like Iraq. Iraq will be on the side of the Axis, incidentally, in this war. And so they'll be doing that to some degree to our countries. And I'm sure there's plenty of Iraqis around who still are champing at the bit to get even with the US and to kill Americans for what they did. I've seen comments online. There's still, I think it wouldn't be, I'm not saying most people, but I'm sure there's some who are like, right, yeah, this is my chance to get even. I remember, my family, the stuff we don't hear about, I saw a comment online from some American soldiers, and literally this guy was saying he was in Iraq, and he was saying he had a friend, a soldier, and the soldier kept as a memento a photo, an American soldier. He kept as like a trophy this photo of this traumatized Iraqi family. You could see the father with his head down, the wife looking sad, and the two kids. And this American soldier raped the woman in front of them, and then he shot them all in the head. And he just took that photo home. It's like, yeah, it's like a deer trophy. You see what I'm getting at? Like, why do you think this war is coming? It's karmic. And it's going to be... Richard Caratini from the channel Eyes Open in California Dreams was told that, quote, America will receive double for its iniquity. So, we're going to get much... It's going to be much worse what comes back to us than what we put out because of the dynamics of how karma works. I had a dream from God where the Holy Spirit was explaining to me how karma works. I'll put a link to that in the description box below too, if you're interested. It's going to be really, really bad. And we will, as you sow, so shall you reap. We will experience happening to us what our countries collectively have done to many countries in recent decades. And we're going to experience the full horror of shock and awe tactics. But it's other countries that will be directing and leading that, including Russia and China. And it's going to be bad. Bad, bad, bad. And that's one of the reasons the civilian death tolls in our countries will be very high, because it's going to be part of their strategy when they invade. Just to bomb the crap out of us and to just even, bomb indiscriminately civilian areas and intentionally kill a lot of civilians. I think there might be an element of hate and just like by that point and just other troops just wanting to kill us anyway. But it's going to be part of the strategy. And there's method in the madness. It has a purpose. And the sad, ironic thing is they copied from the Western playbook. Those tactics, I think, were developed in the US. There's a lot of studies done on the psychological effects of shock in recent decades, and that's partly how these tactics were developed. Yeah, if you put people into a state of shock enough, they won't really react. They'll just freeze. And then you can, it makes conquering and invading a country much easier and faster, which is... It's all good and well when you're doing it to another country. It's going to be a different experience when the shoe's on the other foot. Yeah, and certainly you can see this in the dreams that many other people have posted online of their prophetic dreams of World War III about what happens in Australia. I was shown that in Australia. The dreams about the invasion of Australia were absolutely terrifying. I could feel it. Like the Australians were beyond terrified. It was a mixture of dread, terror, horror. I can barely describe it. Same in New Zealand. You kind of wake up wanting to throw up. But the dreams Americans have had, I've had dreams about what happens in World War III in the US, but many, not of this kind, many Americans have had dreams about what is coming to the US in World War III, and they just describe similar things, just terror and just shock, and they're just plastering American cities. And people have had dreams, Korean troops going through neighborhoods in Chicago, and everyone is getting shot. They're killing frickin' everyone. You know, there's just no mercy, just house to house, suburb by suburb, boom, 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 tens of like, yeah. And just the number of bombs in some of these dreams and missiles is just insane. Like, yeah, a lot of Americans are just going to freeze and be paralyzed in shock. You combine the shock and awe aspect with in the US, especially, everyone's been shown it's going to be a surprise attack, and it's no surprise that it'll be a pretty quick KO. Everyone's been shown it'll be a pretty quick KO for the US military forces. So the Air Force and the Navy are just, Navy gets wiped out almost immediately, almost completely. The Air Force goes next, and then the Army is defeated next, and the remnants will retreat to wilderness areas and continue fighting. But it's 20 to 40 Axis countries do this shock and awe terror slash surprise attack, and it's just, yeah, the US won't stand much of a chance when it happens. But our side does still win the war in the end. So please refer to the disclaimer in the description box below. I'll leave it there for now. Yeah, it's good. It's good to put the gist of that message out there now, so people can get a sense of what's coming. And I'll do the full video in the future. I have no idea when that will be. Things are just too chaotic. Thanks.